Welcome to Beyond Time Signatures. So today with us we have the one, the only Clayton King. Welcome to the podcast.
What's up, man? I am so happy to be here.
How are you doing today, Clayton?
Dude, I am doing good. Got my happy juice with me and running on like 3 hours of sleep. So, pretty par for the course for me. So I am ready to rip, man.
Fuck yeah. And today with us we have Manav joined as co-host. So um that's going to be fun. And
Peace.
I would like to straight dive in and just ask you, Clayton, like what's your first memory associated with music and first memory with guitar?
Oh, dude. See, I looked out. My dad he's just kind of been in the music industry since he was a kid. So I just grew up around it. And my first memory, dude, he came home one day. I didn't grow up with musical instruments when I was younger, but one day he came home and he had a bass, which I still have it. It's like a shitty Yamaha bass, but um, he just kind of picked it up again because when he had us, he started selling cars and he went full on, like, cut his hair off, threw away the leather pants and all that stuff. And he's like, all right, I'm going to get a real job. Right. And then when I was like 10, he got that bass and brought it home and just started playing, and I just picked it up. He didn't even really, tell me anything about it. And then from there, got into guitar and then started getting more into music. And I met all of his music buddies from when he ran sound with guys like, Van Halen back in the day and stuff like that. So my upbringing was so weird. I just like, from 10 on, I just kind of grew up around that whole space, like in the green rooms. I was the shithead when people were trying to like rehearse and stuff. I was like throwing stuff at them and poking them and stuff. So I'm sure people hated me when I was a kid.
But you were around and Van Halen were around.
Mm. Um, Maybe like twice, because I think at the time when I was 10, they kind of did the whole Sammy Hagar thing, and the stuff with like David Lee Roth, I think was kind of weird. But I was around him maybe like two or three times, and all were just like the nicest, best
Yeah,
people.
I'm
But
sure,
he
man.
ran around with them back in like the late 80s, I think, mid 80s, something like that. Yeah, so pretty
Yeah.
cool.
Your godfather used to do sound for Van Halen, right?
Yeah, actually, shameless plug. Check this out. All right. Yeah. So Jerry Harvey is my dad's best friend. And so he was the one that actually like ran sound for Van Halen and Aerosmith and all those guys. Now he has a in-ear company, but yeah, I just grew up around him and those guys, and it's just crazy. I couldn't ask for a better upbringing. So yeah, ever since then, I was just like, that's what I want to do. Something in that space. I gotta figure it out. But I knew I wanted to do music from like 10 years old, pretty much.
Yeah. I also, Clayton, you gotta tell the story about the Ibanez jewel auction thing. Like, I think it's a core
Oh,
thing that has led to who you are today as an Ibanez artist, and I think people should hear that.
man, I almost don't want to, but I will.
Okay, fine.
Okay.
I mean,
No,
if you
no, I
don't want to,
know.
then it's fine.
No, no, I totally. It just hurts my heart because I should have it. Okay, so Jerry, my godfather, had a charity donation for his daughter at the time, who was born with disability. So he invited musicians and actors and just all these prolific people out to hold this fundraiser. And Steve Vai is a good friend of Jerry, and he donated one of the early Ibanez gems. And anyway, I guess it got sold or whatever. They let Jerry keep it, and then at some point, I think it was 11, Jerry was like, hey, if you want this guitar, I know you're learning guitar, if you want to have this guitar, you can totally have it. And as a kid, I didn't know what it was at all, and I was like, no, it's fine, I like this cheap Squire Strat from Mexico that's dope, it's red and I like red, and dude, like one of the OG gems. And he ended up keeping it for a while, and I think he sold it later on. But dude, I could have held it in my little hands, my little baby hands. So yeah, crazy. But that's the one that got away.
Yeah, and that's what led you to become an Ibanez artist, like 20 years down the line.
Yeah, it is actually, because I got into that, and my dad got me that RG 550 like reissue, and yeah, I've just been hooked ever since.
Fuck yeah, man.
Does Ibanez know the story? Have you spoken to them about it?
I don't know if I've told the gym part, because I think they would crucify me. As if my dad already didn't enough. He's like, dude, you fucking idiot. What are you doing? What are you doing? And um yeah, maybe I will. Maybe after this I'll talk to my rep and tell him that story, and he'll tell me how stupid I am too. So
Okay, sweet. I have I don't know, interesting question because a lot of my band's music, when it was active, was very inspired by your riffs,
oh
right?
wow, dude,
Yeah.
thank
We
you.
were huge fans of your music. Your music blends a lot of technical precision with raw emotion. How do you approach balancing both? Because we struggled with getting we struggled with getting a balance between riffs and leads, riffs and solos. That balance just seemed so difficult to attain across songs. What's your trick behind it? What do you do? How do you
Man,
think?
first off, thank you for the kind words. That's awesome to hear. I don't know, dude. I've always approached it as trying to get the emotion across first, and that's like priority number one. So whether that's like a simple melody or like a motif, it's like that is priority number one. Whatever I'm feeling right now, I want to get that across. And then after that, I start spinning in like how can I make it more interesting? That's usually, adding like cool techniques or maybe rhythmic hiccups or something to keep the listener's ear kind of pinned. But for me, like I try and get the emotion across, whether that's like really sporadic, kind of ADD in your face or whatever, like sweet, melody. Um, that's my number one focus. And then the stuff after that is just kind of sprinkled in. I'm like, okay, here's this riff. So on the B section, how can I make it just different enough where it's still repeatable, but you're not getting bored of it kind of thing. I think it's also really tough when you have two guitar players, because, you know, both people want to be doing cool shit all the
Yeah,
time. I get it.
yeah,
Um, but yeah, maybe one way that I've approached that in the past is doing counter melodies. So you have the main motif and you split it up. One guitar player kind of plays some of the notes, the other plays the other half of the melody. It kind of goes back and forth. That way you still have that main idea going through the song, but it doesn't sound like it's too much going on. You know what I
right.
mean? um, that's a really good question though. It's something I'm still trying to figure out. But my thing is like I want it to be listenable and repeatable, and then all the techie crazy stuff can come after that. But if it's something that kind of is an earworm, it's like I know I'm onto something, and then I can kind of massage it afterwards.
No,
If
it's
that makes sense.
interesting. It's interesting you have that order because you said listenable and repeatable. But as a prog musician, 90% of freaking prog artists out there are like technical, and then they worry about everything else, which is which is awesome, man. It explains the music speaks for itself. So yeah,
Well, and that's it's kind of a good point too, because if you think of the guys that are killing it, Animals as leaders, plenty, Dream Theater, obviously, like godfathers of this stuff. I mean, they still have that element though, right? You can think of your favorite song by any of them, and you could probably think of like a melody or like a rhythmic
yeah, almost
rhythmic
instantly.
hook or something. Um,
That's
and
what the clones don't get. That's true.
yeah, yeah, exactly. And I think when you make the priority, did you say the clones, the NPCs, dude?
Yeah.
Um, no, but it's like I think when you have the substance and the feeling as the forefront of your priority, everything else kind of falls into place. Especially if you're a sick player, which I've seen your stuff. You're a sick player, dude. It's like all that stuff kind of falls in line once you have the base work, right? Um, and you play to your strengths too. Whatever techniques you're really good at or want to implement, you can just throw it in after that, and it kind of becomes more effortless versus like, okay, I want to write a sick tapping lick, and you're focused on how it looks and how crazy it is and stuff. It's like making that listenable is way harder than doing the opposite, in my opinion.
True. Yeah. I think two things. First thing, the point where you mentioned about a counter melody and having the same sort of like idea going. I think that's the reason why we have Aspara 1 and Aspara 2, is because the main theme is there, but it's not the same, but the main core theme is still there, right?
Yeah, that is true. That was also a case of it kind of goes back to Manny's point on this of like what do you do especially if you have too many ideas too, and that was my case when I wrote the first track. I had all these ideas that were cool, but in my opinion, I didn't feel like they served the first song. They were kind of more like B-side riffs, or I had to cut a lot. And so when I did the second one, I was like, oh, cool. This is the same motif, but kind of the other side of it in my brain. So that's why I split the two. But yeah, that's a great example.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Since we've opened a can of worms, Espada, how is your solo work, especially a song like Espada, dude? It has such a strong identity as a song. It's fantastic. How does
Thanks,
your
dude.
solo work differ from when you collaborate with bands and other
Mm.
artists? Because dude, like it's a proper question, because praise a solo artist. I've been in 12 bands my entire life, and I can't think like how you guys think, because for me it's always around picking up the best qualities of each person and putting them together, right?
Yeah, no, that's a phenomenal question actually, because it is really tough. It's I think you have to understand who you're working with and what they want, right? Because I'm not going to name
No, you don't need
names
to,
of,
you don't need to, you
yeah,
don't need
sure,
to.
but
Yeah, yeah.
I had an opportunity early this year with a band that was the biggest band I would have ever worked with, and ended up working with after. But they reached out to me to do some stuff, and I listened to their catalog, tried to make something that I thought sounded like them, and they were like, "No, dude, we wanted like your thing,"
Oh,
and they were
okay.
like not really stoked on it, which I get. But then I worked with another band, and they were very specific on, hey, we want it to sound like this and kind of mesh with our catalog. So I think the first thing is you have to know the person you're working with, the artist, and their expectations. And then how much leeway do you have? Is it a case where they just
Hmm.
want you to kind of do your thing?
Hmm.
Go nuts. But usually it's something where they want it kind of in the ballpark of what they've done, and you just kind of add your spin on that. And so
Right.
that could be something like, okay, what kind of chord progressions do they normally go for? You take that and put your spin on it. Or like rhythmic inflections, you take that, do your spin on it. So it's something where you definitely want to keep your identity. I mean, that's why they're hiring you, right? Is to get part of you. You just need to assess how much of you they really want. And that's a conversation you have with them. You have to ask really good questions, what their vision is for the album or the song that you're doing, um, and it's the most important thing, because you got to do that up front. Otherwise, you end up in a situation like I did, where I was like, "Yeah, let me do something that's just like what you just did," and they're like, "We didn't want that at all," So that would be my advice for that.
No, fair, 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 fair.
Yeah. I just wanted to ask a question that successes that about like three songs, Espada, Morning Cloud, and Equivalent Exchange. Out of that, the two I know are anime, like inspired
Names, yeah, yeah.
names. So that begs the question, because um, do you view your solo music as I don't know what's the word, but a place where you can bring all your influences, visual and life influences? Because I know, there are certain aspects of anime that stucks out to us. No matter, I mean, you have a Power Ranger helmet back there, so I know,
Oh,
yeah.
sick. That's so
So
sick.
so I know there are things that like leave an everlasting impression on us. So like, how do you view your solo music as? Is it like a home ground for all your influences in one single compact size bite size package or something like that?
100%. Yeah, you nailed it, dude. Like anytime I'm writing a track, it's normally like something that I've either seen, another piece of art, or something I've experienced that I have some kind of feeling, and I'm trying to like get that across in the song. Um, and like you were saying, the visual aspect and anime and stuff like that. I mean, anime is really over the top in any kind of scenario, whether that's like, there's like a sad scene or an exciting scene. It's always very exaggerated for the most part.
Right.
um, I've always really liked that. Same with like genres like EDM. I know you and me have talked about this, Prey, about like blending that as well. But I've always liked the over exaggeration of certain elements, and so I've tried to bring that into my music where it makes sense. But yeah, I think for me, my solo stuff is just kind of like I try and get all my influences and just make it into something that I want to hear. And it's funny, when I first decided I was just going to put something out, I didn't think anybody would listen. I didn't really care. I wanted to make something that had all the elements that I really enjoyed about instrumental music and the visual side and everything in between. And was super blessed that people dug it. But yeah, that was just my mindset. So moving forward, I'm just kind of like doing whatever I want to do. And if people dig it, like that's awesome. And if not, like no worries, dude. As long as I'm like really stoked on it and it makes me excited, then I feel like I won, you know?
Sweet.
Absolutely nice.
In terms of, well, you just mentioned moving forward. Let's trace a few steps backwards. Um, as an artist, as any artist, we go through creative blocks all the freaking time. How do you cope with them? Is it just you pick up the guitar and just go wild until you figure an idea out, or do you have another way of?
That's a good question. I used to struggle with this all the time. And then when this became like my full time job, I literally couldn't afford to struggle with it. I like had to get in that mindset. So for me, it's been I try and write every day if I can, even just a little bit. If it's a throwaway idea, that's fine, but just getting in the habit. And so I know when I sit down at this desk, it's just I kind of trick my body into getting in some kind of flow state. The other thing I like doing is implementing limitations on whatever I write. So if I sit down, I think to myself, okay, I know this is going to be in drop C in 3/4 at 122 BPM, and I'm going to use these strings or something. And it's like, boom, there you go. You kind of painted yourself into a box.
Right.
And for me personally, that's way more, it's way easier to figure something out of that when you back yourself in a corner versus having all the options in the world. And you're like, where do I start? Where do I go from here? So I do that all the time. And then the other thing, I talked about this a couple weeks ago, is I'm a very visual person. So on my second screen here, I'll have like anime or nature or something, just something going on that like whatever mood I'm trying to get across, whether that's like a vast ocean of like emptiness or solitude or whatever, like I'll literally throw that up and then kind of change the lighting in the room to like match that. And so my entire environment mirrors what I'm seeing and then how I'm feeling, and hopefully through whatever I'm playing. And then I don't think about it. I'll just start playing and it usually mirrors whatever I have around me. So those two things have helped me a ton. I'll do one or the other if for some reason I sit down and don't feel creative. But that's a good question. It's the worst part about being a artist is when you run into
I
that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I've done something very similar over the last 6 months where I used to burn out a lot through a lot of my work. Not because of music, but because of design, film, anything creative. Once it starts overwhelming me, I used to just burn out. So for the last 6 months, I basically made a public commitment to create every single day and put out a story every single day. I thought it'd take me a year to adapt and not burn out, but 6 months later, now I'm on this desk, and every day I just open my laptop and I just create, dude. Like it really doesn't. I don't know. I just don't think about burning out anymore for some reason. Yeah.
That's awesome, man. So, Manny, what all do you do? I know you do graphic design. Obviously, you're a killer musician. Do you do anything else? Because it sounds like you're juggling like a
A
lot of
lot.
different hats.
Yeah. So design is one of them. Music, I've taken a backseat ever since my band split. I am looking at learning how to make electronic music because I've always wanted to. Apart from that, I'm building my own firm. I'm an entrepreneur, and I have a day job. So yeah, there's
Holy
four
shit,
things.
dude.
Yeah, there's a four
God
five
damn.
things going on, and then there's beyond time signatures, which is also really important for me and
You
the
just
team.
said that like it was the most casual thing ever. You listed like 8 things and a day job, and you're like, yeah, it's whatever. And I'm also doing this with you guys. I props to you, man. That's awesome.
Thank you, bro. But I do miss music a lot. Like
Mm.
metal, at least. It's been extremely integral for the last, I don't know, 10, 12 years of my life. And now just not having it is just, I don't know. What would you do if music wasn't an option for you anymore?
I mean, that's That's a really good question because I actually had to face that back in 2020. We lived in this little apartment where the electricity and transformer outside got redone at some point, like right after we moved in. And dude, I had the craziest ground noise where I couldn't track, I couldn't even practice. I tried everything and I couldn't record music. I couldn't practice through an amp or anything. So I was like, dude, what am I going to do? Like I have no other creative outlet. So for me, I got into like photo video. Before that, I had never touched it. And so I spent like 2 years taking a break from music and just diving in to this side. So if you can, I would find something else creatively that kind of soaks that flame in you. But I mean, it sounds like you already have a couple of those things like graphic design and some of those other things. So
Now, yeah, now, yeah,
yeah,
now I'm chilling. But
yeah.
yeah, back then it
So
was bad. Yeah.
yeah, so I mean, that would be my thing is just find something else to channel that through. Cause I mean, it, regardless, like you're an artist regardless of the medium, right? And if you don't have a conduit to funnel a lot of that through, you're gonna burn out in the stuff that isn't creative, like your day job and other things. So yeah, you got to find that. But that's awesome, man. It sounds like you kind of figured it out already. Yeah.
Have things changed since the baby?
Um, not well. Not really. I've definitely spent more time on baby stuff, which has been like a big chunk. But it's just we're really stoked for it. It has put a little pressure on me. Well, I put a little pressure on myself to try and find a little bit more passive income where I'm not staying up till 5 a.m. doing other people's projects and stuff, which I enjoy a lot. But I know that's not sustainable when you have a kiddo. So the next couple months, I'm trying to shift my focus a little bit and build up some sustainable things like I don't know if I'd call it a masterclass, but like tutorials and big preset packages and
Oh, you're
production
finally working
stuff.
on that, bro.
I'm almost
Nice,
done. Yeah, it's been a really
nice.
long journey. I don't ever want to. I don't know. I'm not trying to get too deep into this. I don't want to go off on a tangent, but um, the whole thing with like photo presets and video presets, I think they're fine, but I think I don't feel comfortable just selling those because it's like
Yeah, you're
you can't,
giving away one of your, like, core elements of what makes you you, right?
oh no. So like I'm fine with doing that. My reason of not wanting to just give the presets is because I feel like I never just slap one on and never touch something else. I'll tweak a couple things. So what I've done is I'm trying to sell the presets and a course that goes with them for the same price as just like other presets. And so like you'll get the presets and then like a couple hours of me going through how I use them, how I edit them, like my whole process, because I think it's kind of unfair to just give somebody the presets and not the mindset behind it,
Right.
right?
Yes.
I've done that so many times where I buy somebody's presets or something like that, and it I shoot different, so it's like I don't know why they're doing certain things, and it's not going to translate to my photo. So I'm trying to put like an all-encompassing course together where you get the presets and all that. Same with video, and I walk you through how to light things, how to like set your camera up, just everything in between. So it's been a long time coming. I'm hoping to get it done before the baby gets here, and yeah, it's like my whole process, everything in between, and I'm hopefully it's going to be really affordable for most people. So yeah, I'm stoked. We'll see.
That's awesome, man. That's awesome. I have a question. Like, when you were starting out with photo and video, who were the people that inspired you the most? Like, from that aspect, like, obviously, there, like, when we start out anything, like, we reference and we try to replicate stuff, and then after a point we find our own thing, right? So were there any people?
Yeah, there were a couple of people. I mean, I think what triggered it for me is I saw Blade Runner, like the first Blade
Okay.
Runner, and I was like, yeah, game over. I got to figure this out somehow. And I'm so far off from anything close, but like I just saw that and I fell in love. I feel like it was this is such a weird analogy, but I feel like when I was a kid and I could hear the separation between the kick drum, the bass, and the guitar, like when I was listening to something, I was like, whoa. And then I kind of figured that out. that's how I felt when I watched Blade Runner. As far as the cinematography, I never really paid attention to it before that, and I was like, "Whoa, how did they light this and the colors?" And you know what I mean. So that was the catalyst. And then it was people like, I remember seeing Josh De La Victoria stuff from way back. I mean, he's always been sick, but like I saw his stuff from a long time ago. And I think I actually hit him up. I probably punished the fuck out of him. It's like, yo, dude, how do you do that, man? Um, his stuff was sick. And then Clint Tustin, love that dude.
Yeah,
He's
yeah, yeah.
killer. Man, he was like, I literally think I asked him, I was like, hey, I've got this much money. I want to get into this. What should I get? And he like recommended me. I think I had like a Lumix G7 long time ago
Nice.
and loved his stuff. So I think those two guys in the guitar space are like what got me to even really care. I was like, dude, their videos look so much different than anybody else's. And then yeah, just like cinematographers, every time I see a movie, I'll try and pick something up. And now it's so weird. I don't know about you guys, but I don't really listen to a bunch of guitar related information anymore. For me, I'm like totally sucked in to the cinematography space and photography. So my all my free time when I'm not playing, I'm just listening or watching other people learning that side. Because for me, I feel like, I mean, I can always improve on the guitar stuff. For me, I'm not like, I don't want to be the crazy sick lead prodigy guy. I just want to write cool stuff. And I'm kind of at the point where I can do most of the stuff that I want to write with for the most part, not all the time. So my focus has been more on like the visual side of like, okay, how can I get better at that? Cause I have a lot to learn there. So that's my mindset.
Dude.
But yeah, sorry, long
No,
story
no, no.
short,
No, no.
those two
I think
guys.
I
Yeah.
think I think Manav and I are in the
Yeah,
in the same
exact
cycle
same
right now,
page. Exact same
because
page.
after, like, you recommended me the Sony ZV-E10 Clayton.
Yeah.
I mean, I've been, like, trying to figure out stuff, trying to do more stuff,
Dude, your stuff
working
looks
with.
great, by the way. Recently, I meant to
Oh, thank you.
compliment you on that the other day, but really, like his taking a peg up looks sick.
Thank you. I mean, it's just gonna get better from here. I mean, the more stuff you release, the more reference I'll have.
I've had my fair share of experience with cinematography and editing too, but my biggest problem is color because I'm colorblind.
Oh,
Yeah,
dude,
yeah,
yeah,
yeah.
that
But
that's tough, man.
yeah, yeah, yeah. But it's all right. I'm a much happier editor and filmer than a color grading
Hmm.
guy. I can't be bothered, dude. I just pay a colorist instead.
Dude, well, I envy you because I'm the opposite. I hate editing.
Really?
I could color all day every day, and
No,
some
I can't.
people.
I can't do it often. No,
Oh, okay,
drains me out. No, but
okay,
I can do it for my purposes. Similar to you. If
gotcha,
there's a music video I've got to edit, I'll step up to it. That's all right.
gotcha.
Perfectly fine.
Clayton, if somebody wants to, like, start taking colors more seriously, what advice would you give them?
Hmm.
Because just from your videos from the start of 2024, the way you have color graded has also evolved. Like, it had more gray and orange colors, but now it's way more warm and vibrant, especially in Espada 2. So I just want to get, like, an insight on, like, if I wanted to improve my stuff, like, what reference should I take in, or how should I use those reference to get to a point where it looks similar.
Yeah, that's a great question. I think it's kind of similar to mixing, right? Like if you have a mix that you really like, you're going to reference that mix and A B it. I think a good practice is to get stills of a movie that you like, or even like a, I don't know, YouTube video or something that you want to emulate, and literally grab a still. And in both Premiere and DaVinci, you can do side by side. So I always have, if I'm going for a certain look, I'll have a still of like a reference image to the left, and then I'll grade against that. And so you can match black point. You can see what color is in the highlights, the midtones. Are the blacks clean? Are they crushed? Are they pushed? Um, it's the same with kind of referencing mixing. You can, as you get better, you can kind of pick more things apart, and then visually you can see how close are you getting to that. It also helps with the setup too, because like if you have a reference image, you're gonna have to think about how are you gonna light it. How is the set design going to be, whether that's just your room, but you got to think about the colors in the image, like physically what's going to be on camera. That would be my number one advice is is literally get stills of whatever you want to emulate and then try and reverse engineer it the best you can. And you're not going to get it the first time or the 10th, or I still don't get it. I get close, but like I still don't get it. You know, it's like it's like with anything. You just get incrementally closer. You suck less every day, a little
Every
bit
day,
is the
yeah.
hope. Yeah.
I
So,
think I think same's for mixing, like you mentioned.
mhm.
And did you mix the So It Begin records like before your solo stuff?
I mixed a couple of the later ones, but everything before that was my buddy Corey Brunneman. But a lot of that, the pre-pro stuff, we ended up using, and I only learned that just because I nobody else was around to do it, so I kind of did it out of necessity. And then I learned how to mix because we couldn't really afford to keep going back there. So I was like, well, I
Right.
guess I'll figure out how to do it, and it's kind of the same thing.
Dude, because your mixes really sound, I think it's more pushed in terms of LUFS or perceived loudness, and I think it has to do with the fact that EDM is quite louder compared to other genres. And I'm assume like there has to be, like, everything needs to be taken care of as far as, like, how the bass reacts with the drums in terms of transients, because like after a certain threshold, if you push it, it's gonna clip. So I just want to ask that, when you started out your like personal music, like, did you have a vision for how you wanted it to sound in terms of mixing?
Yeah, yeah, definitely. I remember I listened to, I think it was Moon by Power or something by Skrillex. He dropped an EP a couple years ago, like 4 years ago or something. And I listened to it and I literally, like, I could not understand how it was so loud and aggressive, but you could still hear everything. It blew my mind. So I went down this crazy rabbit hole, and my thing was like, how can I try and pursue that in heavy music and get it as pushed, probably too pushed in most people's opinion, but like push it as hard as I can and still have clarity of like knowing what's going on. And again, it's like I just said with the cinematography thing, I'm still working towards it. I don't think I've gotten there, but I've learned a lot that maybe some other people don't do, that has kind of helped out, like a different kind of mindset when I'm mixing that kind of stuff. But yeah, that was the catalyst. I was like listening to Skrillex's stuff and I was like, dude, how the fuck is he doing this? And then of course, like, you know, Buster is such a good example of somebody else that's just, I mean, his stuff sounds like, I don't know, it's so crazy. So kind of meshing those, I'm like, all right, I like the stuff he's doing. I just want to do it a little different. Still chasing it, but yeah, I appreciate it. Thanks for the kind words, dude.
Yeah, I mean, of course. And we used to talk about that the people that end up being the standout guys, they sort of brings some elements from other genres into the genre. So I just like, apart from EDM, are there any other genres that you take inspiration from, like not directly but indirectly?
Oh yeah. Yeah. I mean, I think I think a lot of the stuff that I just jam in general is like pop punk stuff. So like 4 Years Strong, probably my favorite band. Love that band. And then like I like Super Heaven a lot. Old Deftones, stuff like that. But I think for me, like the pop punk stuff is where I'm like, okay, what's the element there? It's like they have this catchy melody that repeats. It's a little bit different, but it keeps you hooked the whole time and it's engaging. So I would say probably that. There's another band, dude, that I've been so into this year, called Thama or Tama. It's Thama. It's a Korean guy that,
Hmm.
dude, it's so fucking good. It's like R&B jazz fusion or something like that. But it's like, I don't know why, dude. That's all I listen to these days. And I don't think I have any of those elements in my music, but I'm sure that there are like certain elements that I subconsciously pick from and throw in there, you know what I mean? But I try to, I still listen to metal and heavy music, but I try and not listen to stuff that's so like one to one to kind of what I'm doing or in the same ballpark. Cause I know I've done it just like anybody else has done it, where you sit down and write something, you're like, oh, this is fucking sick. And you listen to it and you're like, that's just the
Somebody else,
fucking,
yeah.
it's like that's Doomsday by Architects or so, you know what I mean? I mean, that's a bad example, but you know what I'm saying? It's like one of
Yeah.
those things.
There's like 15,000 Doomsday copies out there at this
Dude,
point.
yeah. Yeah, I definitely fell into that trap at a certain point. So I was like, all right, I got to do some different shit. But, a good example recently is Bill Murray. I mean, he's been killing it
Yes.
forever, but
Dude,
dude,
I
he
was
just,
just about to say,
yeah,
yeah.
he was like, I'm going to do the country thing and just go balls in on it. And it's so funny because
Refreshing.
everybody that has been sending me that, all my buddies from like high school and stuff that don't really listen to country or any of that stuff, that hated country growing up, they're like,
Mm.
this is sick. I like
No,
country when it's like this guy, turn left, brother. Hell yeah. It's like that kind of vibe. So anyway,
fucking emphasis on the balls in because his videos
yeah.
are ridiculous.
Yes,
Yeah.
dude.
It's just memes.
Dude, it's
It's so
it's
good.
it's it's not like he's not creative. It's a different tangent of creative that people, I don't know, for
It's
some reason.
internet humor, I would say.
Yeah,
It's internet
yeah,
humor 101.
Yeah. No, and
yeah.
he's been sick forever. I mean, even when he used to be in, Crab Core Central back in the MySpace days and stuff. I mean, he's always been killer. But yeah, it's been really cool to see his success with all that. Probably just dope.
Um,
I have a question.
go
It's a
ahead,
Yeah.
go
little
ahead.
it's a little different question, but I think one of the key aspects of, like, why people, a lot of people enjoy your music, and a lot of guitar players enjoy your music, is the fact that when Equivalent Exchange came out, I'm pretty sure you gave out free tabs, right, for Equivalent Exchange,
Yeah. Yeah. I always
and a
try
shit
to.
ton of people covered it, and I just
Mhm.
love that. So was it a calculated move, or like you just wanted to do it and it just snowballed into something that you didn't expect?
That's a good question. I just, I don't know. I feel like if I'm going to ask somebody to listen to my music, I want to feel like they're getting some kind of value other than just the song or whatever. So for me, it's always like, how can I give value to whoever wants to support me? In turn, right, I'm going to get value back of them covering my music or playing my music or just listening to it, which I appreciate. But yeah, I don't know. I think my previous job kind of has me in the mindset of like, this is cliche, but like good customer service as far as like value adding on anything I can put out. And so that was my mindset. I just wanted to like give something as incentive of like, hey, I appreciate you jamming the track. Here's some free stuff. Don't worry about it. I just asked that, you jam it or whatever. Um, and yeah, I think it's worked out pretty well for me. I know I probably gave away pretty decent amount of money, but at the same time, it's like I really didn't market it at all. I just kind of gave it out and people liked it and covered it, and then more people saw it. And so, yeah, it kind of snowballed in its own thing, which was cool.
I work in sales, and I'm telling you that you might have done it subconsciously, but this is something we do very often in sales, where, let's say we have a successful campaign going on with a client, and we take them out on drinks just so they realize that, hey, thank you so much for the opportunity. You guys have been fucking fantastic. And then 2 months later, they are bringing us more clients that we've never heard
Mhm.
of. So it kind of spirals back and comes back and plays out to your advantage. So kudos to you, man.
That was actually
Um,
my day job that I quit was sales engineering.
oh, okay,
So
sweet, sweet, sweet.
yeah, so but same idea is and you hit it on the head. If whoever you're working with feels like they're getting more from you, they want to give back and help, right? In some capacity. So they'll give references or whatever. So yeah, I think that was partly my mindset, but also it was like I didn't have anything out, right? So I couldn't be like, hey, I know you like my stuff, jam it. It was like I was kind of starting from scratch, I felt like. So I thought it was a good way to at least get somebody to be like, okay, I'm getting something. So now I can jam it or whatever. So I don't know.
That's awesome. That's really cool.
I have a question. Can I go ahead?
Yeah, yeah, please.
Okay, sweet. Clayton, what's a good release schedule look like? Because this is something artists just don't freaking realize, dude. They want to just make the song and this, I don't know why they just drop it. And I'm just like, buddy, there's a pre-release, there's a post-release, there's a lot of things that go in between. that truly amplify and, give your song, or give your movie or whatever the recognition it truly deserves.
Yeah, no, I could not agree with that anymore if I tried. I am so pro, like, have a plan and execute. Maybe this is my smidge of the tism or something, but I have a notes thing on my phone of every like 5 minutes when I drop a song for a whole like 2 days or 3 days or something. And maybe not every 5 minutes, but I mean it literally is like, okay, at this time I'm gonna like put this on my story. At this time I'm gonna send out an email blast. At this time I'm gonna like post it on YouTube. At this time I'm gonna focus on just replying to people. At this time I'm gonna like, you know what I mean? But I mean, it literally, and you don't need to do that. I'm just saying for me, I like having it set up so that when it comes to the day of, it's like I don't have any question of what I should be doing. It's all laid out and I just go through it and I'm like, okay, I'm making sure that I'm giving everything the attention. I'm posting everywhere, doing all that stuff. But yeah, it really is a shame, because if you think about it, you spend however many hours writing the song, producing it, mixing it, artwork, whatever, right? And it's done. It's a finished product. And then like, yeah, like you said, people just kind of alley oop it out into the ether and hope for the best. And here's the thing: if you're a well established artist and maybe have a cult following, for some people that can totally work, right? But for most people, myself included, uh, it's not the best idea. And there's a lot of ways you can really optimize all your hard work and not spend any kind of money or anything, just a little bit of time and do things the smart way. So yeah, I'm a big advocate of that. But my advice would be a couple days before, just write out everything that you know you're gonna have to do, posting on social media, have all the assets ready, for your story, for the feed, everything in between. Um, and then just make sure you execute on it. Yeah, let's go. See, Prey knows. Prey knows.
Yeah, fair enough. I mean, praise
I'm learning
been.
from the best. So
But I mean, so like you think of like bigger artists. I mean, they have whole teams that just do that.
Yeah,
Their
yeah, yeah, yeah.
entire job for like a week or two. And then here's another thing. I feel like people don't really think about the kind of long term or medium term of like the week of, okay, the month of stuff after that. Like, how do you make it have legs and kind of like grow, and you know what I mean? It's like if you just think of release day, you're kind of missing the boat because there's stuff you can continue doing for the first week so it gets picked up on different playlists or whatever. And then after that, how can you get people to keep listening to it a month in? So yeah,
yeah.
there's a lot to it. But my thing is like, don't neglect that. If you're going to spend all the time beforehand, like spend the time making it as good as it can
Worth it.
be.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Because through my time in my previous band, I was also the marketeer for that band, and we had a proper content calendar to a point where we had these many reels ready, these many stories. I mean, stories ready. The posting, everything was scheduled in advance, and the long-term plan for us was every time we had a music video, we'd run ads on Meta Business Suite for 3 months straight until the next song dropped. So that kind of covered all our grounds. But yeah, it's genuinely a shame to see artists with good music just not execute or even think in that direction. I've spoken to them so many times about, hey dude, let me help you package your music.
Hmm.
Let me help you package your music because it's
I
I
think
don't.
I know the reason why, because a lot of people when they start making music, they approach it from, hey, this is a fun thing, and hey, I don't want to think about the business side of thing that takes away the fun of it. And then when they don't see the same results, they blame it on themselves, that, oh, why am I bad? Is my music? No, it's not that. You chose this for yourself. And I think Tyler, the creator, I think he said it very beautifully, that if you're spending a lot of time writing the song, like recording the song, mixing the song, if you're doing that, and making the artwork for it and stuff, then why would you stop as soon as it gets out? Like, that just doesn't make a lot of sense.
Yeah, and
So
you think about like the film industry or the game industry, the majority of the budget goes to marketing in
yes.
everything, in any kind of field, and
Even
it's just,
tech, even
it's
tech.
Yeah, exactly. It's just funny because the music budgets typically it's the same thing, goes towards marketing, but it's there's some weird like pro amateur level whatever kind of thing where that drops off, and it just I guess gets lost in translation. People don't really think about it as much. But I mean, I'll be completely honest. On any of my personal releases, I've never run an ad. I haven't spent a dollar or anything. But I guess my point is, there's ways that you can do it that don't require money. It's just time and different creative ways of thinking. But the point is, like, you need to premeditate on that, like, well
True.
before release day, and then have a plan. And then, yeah, if you execute on it, you're going to be way better off.
Yeah, I have a question regarding that. Have you pitched to playlists yourself, or is it something that gets picked up on? So if you have pitched, I just like, are there like certain keywords, or do you phrase how you want to pitch a certain way that works better? Because I have tried pitching, and I have had like a 50-50 like success rate. So I just want to see, like, how you do it.
Yeah, that's also a good question. I used to do that for my old band, so it begins all the time, and we made it on a couple of the Spotify like big ones, and then one of my tracks did too. But I don't know. I mean, I would say I've only tried to show that it's a real person typing the pitch. It's not salesy. I make sure it's very personable, and they know what the song means and how we went about it, and our plan to like kind of continue promoting it and all the cool stuff we're doing. But it's not like I'm never like, yeah, we're gonna run a bunch of ads and we're doing a music video or whatever. It's like, no, we're doing this crazy video with this theme because it's sick and it ties into that. And it's like not really about the number stuff. It's just like the concept. And I don't know, that's been my approach to it, and I've found pretty decent success with it. But maybe that doesn't work for everybody. I just try and make it not robotic, not salesy, not pitchy. It's just like, hey, I'm a person. I made something I'm excited about. I'm trying to get you excited about it as well. And here are the things that I think set us apart from, I don't know, maybe this other band that you want to pitch also.
I see. Okay. Yeah. So, organically trying to make your USP across to them
No,
in a
I
way.
think Prerak, I think it's about storytelling, regardless of where you are, what space you're in. Even if you're in the content industry, for that matter, um, people that are genuinely able to connect to another person make it through the dust. Literally, there's no other way to put it, because the second someone's being pretentious, you just know.
Yep.
You just know, whether it's across a screen, across a text, across an email. You just know when someone's trying to, be someone who they aren't.
I'd agree with that. I'd say that's huge, is in just being like real. Like,
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
if you
yeah.
think about it, it's like, okay, why would you add it to a playlist? Like, why are you excited about this track? And then if you can convey that to somebody, it's like, hopefully they're feeling what you're feeling whenever you read about it or hear it, right? Versus like, oh, we're gonna put this many dollars behind this, and whatever. It's like that. At least in my experience, that's never worked well. And anytime
Yeah.
somebody approaches me with something like that, I'm like, I don't want to work on that really. Like that doesn't get me stoked. So yeah, that's a great point, Manny. I agree.
Yeah. I have a very, like, important question that I need an answer on, because you are a freelancer right now, right?
Mm-hmm.
With videos so what do you think helps people form good relationships with brands and long-term relationships with brands? And because I know for a fact that it just doesn't end with your work as a provider, but it has a lot more to do with how you present yourself and how you articulate your speech and stuff like that too. And I think you're great at that. So I just want to gauge some insights on that.
Yeah, I mean that's another great question. Dude, I think as far as like working with a brand, you need to be number one rule in anything, in any industry, don't be a dick. Like I've seen less talented people that were easier to get along with get the job over virtuosos time and time again. Number one rule, just be like cool, easy to work
Work
with,
with,
stuff
yeah.
like that. Yeah, so that's
Yeah.
number one. Number two is do your best to do what you're what you say you can do. A classic line of like under promise, over deliver. But it really is the case of, if a brand wants to work with you and you have the first job, you need to really knock it out of the park and make sure that you deliver in all fronts, give maybe more than they ask for, whether that's like for video, more assets. So you go ahead and do the thumbnails, you make different cuts that they don't even ask for, but now they have it. They don't have to ask. You know what I mean? It's just stuff like that. And then, yeah, just being a good brand partner. And what that means is like, instead of approaching it from like, okay, what can I get from this deal, whether that's like free gear or money or whatever, it's like, instead of that, like, what are you going to be able to provide to them, and making sure that you keep that in the forefront of your mind. And I think if you come in it and with that approach, and you're a good person and you have the skill set, it's kind of a no brainer. And then from there, the hardest part is getting the first job. And as long as you do well on that and you deliver on time and you communicate, expectations, making sure everything's in line, they're going to hire you back. Like there's no reason not to. And then now
100%.
you've got like a repeating client
Yeah,
list. And
retention.
exactly. So the hardest part is getting the first one. And that's a lot of, like you were saying, Prey, you got to, communicate well and kind of sell yourself on obviously your skill set and stuff like that. But the main thing is like, if you get on the phone with somebody and you're just like a good person and you say, look, I know what you're trying to do. I know I can deliver that within this time frame. And you speak with confidence and say, look, here's how I'm going to do it, whatever, you're probably going to get the job most of the time. So, and then, yeah, my biggest advice is when you get that first job, don't fuck it up. Make sure
Yeah,
that
big
you,
one.
yeah, make sure that you hold it to a very high standard and treat it with respect, because they're respecting you by giving you the job. You need to respect them
Yes.
by delivering. And then, yeah, if you do a good enough job and you're a cool person, they're going to hire you back. And now you've got, repeating clients. And if you do that 4 or 5 times or 10 times or whatever, now you've got staggered projects throughout the year. You'll be able to buy groceries and get a car and all that fun stuff. You know what I mean? Money, woo. Yeah. So,
No, you've spoken like a man with true experience in sales, because this is what I do on a day to day basis across two companies. I work with brands day in, day out, and every word you've literally just said has been applicable over the last 2 years of my working experience. Um, yeah, dude. Actually, I we wanted your advice on something.
yeah,
Um,
hit me.
we were talking about how musicians don't value the packaging of, how they put together the music and pitch it out. So we were thinking, what if Beyond Time Signatures had a second vertical called Beyond Time Signatures Studios, where we provide client services to other musicians in helping them package the music and actually put it out there. Is that something you think would actually turn some heads?
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I think nowadays with all the tools and technology that we have, being able to write at home or mix at home or any of those things, that stuff's pretty accessible. And most musicians nowadays are doing kind of what's become the bare minimum, which is like record yourself, do a rough mix, and have some kind of camera to film yourself. Like everybody's kind of doing that. I think where the gaps are is kind of like what you said. It's like, how do you package that? How do you come up with like a
A
release
strategy,
plan?
yeah, yeah.
How do you come up with like, I hate this word, but like an aesthetic for your whatever you're doing at the time, right? There's a lot of things that musicians don't really think about that are very important. And I think if you guys could, fill that hole in the market, I have a couple other buddies that are doing pretty well out in LA doing just that. It's just one of those things where, you're not coming in as like a manager where you're going to take a big cut or anything like that. Or, it's more like consulting of, let me learn what you guys are trying to do and what your goals are, and I'm going to help you get there, right? But it's way more concrete, I feel like, than just having like a blanket manager that probably doesn't have the skill set to fulfill those things, where I feel like you guys probably would. You both have a ton of experience and you know a lot of people too, that if you guys couldn't do what they're trying to do, of people that could. So yeah, I think it's a great idea.
I think the best kind of sales are the ones that take a consultative route in comparison to, hey, buy this.
Yeah, I
Yeah,
fully agree. That was
yeah.
our business model at my last job. Was it was not, hey, buy this. It was like, hey,
Understand the
let me,
problem. Yeah.
yes, it was like, let me go in person and talk to you and a bunch of engineers at Tesla or Samsung or whatever, and like, let's talk about a project, and then we can. You basically try and figure out the pain points of like, what are you guys having issues with? What do you want? And then from there, you don't really have to sell anything because you're helping find a solution. I think it's the same with what you're talking about, where you could go to artists and try and figure out their goals and what they're struggling with. You guys could kind of fill in the gaps. But yeah, I mean, there's so many people that have such sick music that I wish had more visibility. And I know they just need like a little bit of help. You know what I mean?
Would
So
you ever go
Yeah.
back to your job?
no,
Right.
no, no. And now hold on. I love everybody there. And I know, some of them would probably watch this, but I love everybody there, but it was a really high stress environment all the time. And I'm grateful for it because, like, I don't have any fear of public speaking. I've been able to talk to C-level people multiple times of billion-dollar companies. Like, the skill set I got, I'm very thankful for. I don't think I would ever want to go back. I'm glad I did. It helped me pay the bills and get a bunch of my stuff, and I worked my ass off for like 7 years. But I don't think I would ever go back. Now, I think if anybody wants a good career to just get universal skills, dude, sales is like, it's
Yeah,
hard to
yeah.
beat sales. You can really get
It's
some
the
skills.
yeah, it's the one career that hasn't been replaced, no matter what's been,
Hmm.
no matter what's fucking changed. Because technically, I'm an AI engineer by profession. So is Prerak, right?
Yeah.
And we should technically be at the top of our games in terms of everything working out for us because AI is on an all time rise. But you'd be surprised. You'd be genuinely surprised because now what's happening is in the tech space, coders are being replaced by AI. So we aren't really like people aren't really opting for us. So
Mm.
my transition from tech into a more creative industry and taking over the client management side of it and sales side of it has been fantastic. But for my colleagues who I graduated with who haven't had the experience, the opportunity to take that leap, dude, I don't know. I don't know what future is looking like for them.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's tough, man. And literally just having any sales experience, it goes to any industry really, because most things that we do between people, not in every relationship, but a lot of interactions you have come down to like sales, right? Like,
True.
I write music and I want people to listen to the music, and you're trying to like sell people on like, hey, this is why you should listen to this music. And it can speak for itself. But my point is having that skill set of being able to talk to people. Like, Nam is a good example, right? If you're used to cold calling and going to sales meetings or whatever in person, it's like going to Nam and just being a normal person and not having to sell anything. You're just good at making relationships. Like, that's going to go really far. You know what I mean? It's very universal, in my opinion.
Yeah, 100%. But music is so different, dude. Like selling music is not like selling a product or a service because it's the most intangible thing. You're selling fucking frequencies. Uh, I found it particularly difficult to sell music. Have you been able to find like a like
My mindset is I try and not sell music. I sell the video, or I sell the
okay.
tabs, and I don't literally mean sell, but I'm that's the conduit. That's like, I told this to my big buddy Graham DuPont. Shout out Graham DuPont.
Shout out, man.
I told him this it's at some point, but I'm like, dude, I love olive oil, but I'm not gonna just eat olive oil. You need a vehicle to eat the olive oil, which is bread. So you put the olive oil on the bread. That's like my videos. They're the vehicle to the song. I'm not selling the song necessarily. I'm like, here's why you should watch this video, and that's easier. It's visual. Same thing with the
Right.
tabs thing. It's like you can download that and see it and interact with it in a certain way. I'm not saying you can't do that with music. I'm just saying my mindset has been, what are the platforms that I can get my music heard with that isn't just like listen to the song. It's like I put a lot of effort into this video that I think is kind of cool or whatever. Check that out. And then they're like, oh, yeah, the song's dope. And then they'll go listen to it. But I agree with you. I think trying to sell somebody on a song is hard. But if you kind of mask it through whatever it's attached to,
Yep.
that's a great example. A ton of people that I think have had success on YouTube, especially, is they'll make like a short film, or they'll make something completely unrelated and put the song in it, and then everybody's like, dude, what is that song? Great example too is like TikTokers. They'll make some funny TikTok thing and put the song in it, and they're not like selling the song, but it's there, and people are like, oh, that's hilarious, dude, what is that song? And then all these people download it. So that's been my mindset of like, I don't want to sell the song, I want to sell the vehicle to the song, which is all the tertiary elements.
That's important for anyone that listens to this podcast, because that's a golden nugget right there.
I have one personal question for you, Clayton.
Yeah.
I think a lot of people mistake your courteous behavior for being nice, and I just want to know that has there been, like, how often does this happen, that when you are just being courteous to someone, or like reaching out saying that, hey, do you have any music out, like, just as, and it just gets to a point where the other person starts oversharing, and then do you think it's like a double-edged sword, being courteous and people mistaking that for being nice?
Um, that's a tough one. I mean, that happens to me almost every day for sure. But here's my thought behind this. When I was a kid, I had a couple people that I really looked up to,
Mm.
big time, and I remember reaching out and just being like, dude, if they would listen to one song, or if I could just talk to them about something as a kid. And I just remember like it was soul crushing. And so anytime somebody hits me up in any capacity, I always treat it with as much respect as I can. And I want to give them as much time as I can that makes sense. So I don't know. For me, it's like I genuinely would love to hear what they're working on, or whatever. And yes, there have been some times where it's kind of been something where like I unfortunately don't have the time to continue talking all day every day kind of thing. But I do want to make an effort, because I would genuinely love to hear, if they're supporting me, I'd love to listen to what they're working on. But I just never want to give somebody the same feeling I had as a kid of reaching out to like somebody I looked up to a lot, and then just like either them, reading it, not saying anything, or just being kind of like a dick back. So I don't know. For me, I always try and make an effort every day at the end of the day to like go through
Your
DMs or whatever
DMs,
and
yeah.
just like
Yeah.
go back to people. But it is genuine. It's not like I don't do it as like a I don't.
Sure. Yeah.
Yeah, you know what I'm trying to say. Like I really do. I would love to hear what they're working on, and it's cool to see what people are working on and what the state of the scene is. Because I'm not. I feel like I'm kind of like not as in it as I should be. So that kind of helps me feel like I'm more like I have a pulse on what's going on, what music
Yeah.
sounds like, and what people are into. But yeah,
Dude,
very
when you did a live reaction to 25 hours, I mean, that literally made my day when that happened. Like,
dude.
I'm
But
seriously not kidding.
but like for that, like I admire you a ton as like a guitar player and a songwriter.
Come
But I
on,
mean,
come
I was genuinely stoked to hear it. And
on.
yeah, I don't ever. That's another thing. Like if you're a buddy of mine and you send me music, I'm sure a lot of people can attest. Even if you don't ask for it, I'll probably punish you with it. But I always put it on, play it 3 times, and then I have like a notes app up of just live reacting
Yes.
or whatever. But I do it with all my buddies, anybody, whether that's like bands I work with or like just people that I'm friends with. Like if you're gonna trust me enough to give something you've worked so long for and let me hear it when nobody else gets to hear it, it's like, what am I? Oh, dude, that's sick, or what? It's like that kind of. I don't know. I never want to be that guy. Like I want to
Yeah.
genuinely be in your atmosphere or whatever.
Dude,
So,
that's fantastic, man. A lot of respect. A lot of respect for you saying
Yeah.
that, because artists aren't like that.
Cause yeah, I mean, somebody
Yeah.
who's as resourceful as you have all the reason to be like the people that you wanted to reach out to but couldn't, but you are not, and that's just fucking awesome. I mean,
But it on the other hand, like I do get it. I know like there's a certain level where like literally you can't get back to everybody. Can't. I totally understand. I just my mindset is like where it makes sense for me, I always try and do that. But yeah, I appreciate it.
just want to take this moment to say that like, I have learned so much from both of you guys, like just like, having conversations with you and watching you both do your thing. And I mean, like, it's just awesome to be around you guys. So like, thank you both of you for
Oh
just being
man,
yourself.
thank you, man. Cheers.
Dude, I was gonna say I feel the
I'm
same
sorry.
way about you and Sean and Joe and like all of our buddies and even you, Manny, which I love that I just gave you an American name. That's so shitty of me, but
No,
you
it's
gave me
actually my
permission.
nickname. It's actually my
Okay, cool.
nickname.
Well, I'm gonna
Yeah,
keep
yeah,
calling you Manny. But
yeah. That's
no,
all
I
right.
mean,
That's all right.
even just talking to you now, I mean, it's cool to like get some of the ideas reinforced and get a new perspective on a
Mm,
lot of this stuff too. But yeah, it's this is my favorite thing is like getting to have community and sharing ideas and learning. And I don't know. I think everything we talked about today, a good answer for it also would be like build a community, build
always,
a group of
always,
people because that's the fastest way to level up is
always,
you
dude.
have a group of experiences and mistakes and I can be like, dude, don't do this, I fucked up, learn from me, right? And same with you, that kind of thing. So yeah, appreciate you guys too, and it's like it's cool to talk to both of you guys.
Clayton, music's an incredibly personal journey. If you could go back to the very moment you decided on choosing music as like your career, to the beginning of your career, what would you tell younger Clayton King?
I would just tell myself to make the shit that I want to make. Like fuck everybody else. It doesn't matter what anybody thinks cuz dude, the only when I started doing well in any area of my music and kind of getting somewhat popular, like some kind of following, as small as it is, it's like it happened when I just stopped giving a shit about what I thought people wanted to see and following other people. And I was like, I'm just gonna make stuff that I think sounds cool. Like I stopped doing a bunch of covers and I stopped trying to follow a bunch of trends and stuff like that. I just wish I would have done it like 10 years sooner because I feel like for so long I was trying to like do what other people were doing like to a T. And obviously, why would they listen to my stuff if I'm copying
Literally
somebody
copying
else?
this, yeah.
Yeah, but just not as good, right? And so it's like I wish I would have taken a sec to look at what I'm good at, take my taste and my innate talent at like a handful of things, put them together and just make stuff that made me excited. So I wish I would have done that way sooner. So my advice is like if you're a young musician, like find what makes you unique and play to your strengths. I'm not saying don't focus on your weaknesses, but find what makes your playing unique or your writing style or whatever it might be and lean into that. Like lean into that, pull your influences and just make something that you're genuinely stoked about. Because chances are, if you do that and you're stoked and you have good taste, other people are going to be drawn to it as well. You're going to find an audience and it's going to be way more genuine, than if you try and like pick up on trends. And sure, you might get like short-term popularity or short-term attention, but you're not going to really cultivate like a fan base or like a community of people that enjoy what you do. So yeah, I just wish I would have known that like 10 years prior. It would have saved me a ton of time and
Yeah,
headache.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah. I think. Well, you mentioned something about good taste. I've been reading this book by Rick Rubin, The Creative Act. What a brilliant book! What a brilliant book! There's something that really piqued my interest in that book. He talks about subjectivity being like a false umbrella for someone who doesn't have good taste. What are your thoughts on that? Because his way of putting it across was that I'm in the position that I'm in because people trust my taste. That's literally it. As someone who doesn't know music theory, as someone who doesn't know how to play a single instrument, Rick Rubin has probably produced the greatest albums we've ever heard. Some of the greatest albums I've heard, and it all boils down to good taste. If you
Yeah. I
have good
mean,
taste, subjectivity is out the window.
I agree with a lot of that. And the only way, or maybe not the only way, but the main way I think to get good taste is through your own experience and living
Yeah,
life and listening to certain things. But the other side of that coin is like being confident in your own taste and knowing like this is what I like. I know I like this. I can make a decision on this
double
because I
down on it.
know
Yeah,
exactly. I know what I like.
yeah.
I think that's why people liked going to him quite a bit, is because not only, did he know what he liked, but he was very decisive on it. It wasn't super wishy-washy, at least from interviews and stuff that I've seen. Um, but yeah, I agree, dude. Taste is everything. I mean, it's just like it goes so far back to our conversation about, we were talking about Lightroom presets and photography and stuff like that. It's the same thing. Like you could have the same tools that I do or that somebody else does or whatever, but you're going to have different tastes. And because of that, your mindset and the way that you're going to edit that photo or mix that song, totally different. So I think that's why, like, Misha, when he was giving out early days of like GGD and all that stuff, people were like, well, dude, you're like, you're giving out your entire mix tutorial and your products and your sound or whatever. Like, aren't you worried? He's like, no, dude, because they don't have the same taste as me. They don't have the same mindset when they sit down to write a song. And I really do think that is what separates you from being like amateur to pro. And all the best producers I know have good taste. People go to them. Drew Folk, a buddy of mine, is a great example. He does like, shoot, he's doing every fucking band these days, but he does like Papa Roach and Ice Nine Kills and Spirit Box and all these people. But I mean, bands go to him because he does have good taste and he's decisive. He's just like, yeah, I know what I like. And thankfully, a lot of people also like what I like. But it took him all these years of like doing different things and building up his own taste to really be able to be confident in that. So, yeah, big deal. I think it's the differentiator between being amateur and pro for sure.
Yeah. A shout out
Yeah.
to one of our previous podcasts, Yogi from Pineapple Express. He said the same thing. He literally said the same thing. All he had to do was learn what didn't work, what was not that nice. Yeah.
Yeah.
I want to ask something related to that because even 6 months ago, I used to feel this urgency or rush about, hey, I need to do this because if I don't do it now, I will never be able to do it in terms of getting certain, reaching certain, like, music goals that everybody goes through, be it more materialistic or be it more like, personal goals. So from your experience of doing music for the last 10 years, I'm sure, like, there was a point where you started doing things on your own terms. So, like, can you share some perspectives from that end? Because I still don't think I have totally 100% digested the fact that there is no rush.
Yeah, man. Okay. I think you need to shift your perspective on it too, that you feeling that self-imposed pressure that you put on yourself is not necessarily a bad thing. It's probably why you are so successful at 21 and have done so much that other people have. No, I'm serious, because everybody I know that has been successful in this field or any field has that self-imposed pressure, because nobody's really like yelling at you like, hey, you better put this out this week or nobody's going to listen to your stuff, or like, if you don't do this by this time, like nobody's doing that. That's you putting on that pressure. I don't necessarily think it's a bad thing. It can become unhealthy if you let it win and eat at you too much, but I do think it is a good driving force. I mean, it's been a massive driving force for me. I have this weird constant anxiety all the time that I'm not writing enough or I'm not posting enough stuff or whatever. Everybody does, right? Anybody I know that is doing pretty well has that. So I don't think you should see it as a negative thing. And I think that you've learned or are learning, I've seen you the past year use it to your advantage versus like feel like it's like a weight. Instead, kind of help like the momentum thing, dude, with your EP, kind of help it like push you along type thing. So my advice would be like, don't lose that. Just know that it's normal to have and that you can use it in a healthy way to like drive you and be a driving force. Does that make sense? Kind of
A little, yes. Yeah.
a
I,
little.
I need
Okay.
to I need to come back to this
Yeah.
so that I can fully understand that. But yeah, thanks, man. Yeah.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
really appreciate you, and really appreciate you saying all the kind stuff to both of us. And thank you once again for coming to the podcast. It's been it's been a long time in making,
Yeah,
but I'm
dude.
glad that
Dude,
we
I'm so
finally made
glad.
it happen.
I'm
Also, just like, before we go, whenever the next time you meet your dad, just tell him that a dude from India sends his regards, because I think like Keith is an awesome person, and I think he has a lot to do with who you are today, in terms of your nature and how you look at life. Oh, dude, by the way, Manav, Clayton's dad is an ex Honda director of Texas.
Mm.
NASCAR, was it?
No, Supercross. So like
Supercross.
motocross, yeah, dirt bikes and shit, dude. You
very
know what's
sick.
funny is he's. I'm sure he's gonna watch this when it comes out, and it's gonna make his day. But I mean, it is true. It's like 100% the reason why I do any of this, or
No,
I'm very thankful
you'll go
for sure.
far, dude. You'll go far. You'll go far. You've got a fantastic head on your shoulders, and I know for a fact, no matter where you go, what you do, you're gonna go far, for
Thanks,
sure.
Manny. Appreciate
Cheers,
it.